Hey, welcome back to Love Letter Knits. I'm Gabriella and this is my YouTube channel all about knitting and crochet. In this video we're going to be doing a spring and summer knits plain with me. The weather's really heating up here in Arizona and I am in dire need of new tank tops, and honestly when I go to the store most of them are not really what I'm looking for, so I'm hoping that by making my own I will be much happier. And I thought this would be the perfect video to film before I get started on all that so that you can see those projects from beginning to finish. So let's get started. My goal for today is to plan out 4 to 5 different tank tops or short sleeve t-shirts that I can knit between April and July, so that gives me about 1 pattern per month. Tank tops are fast, so I probably could do 2 in a month, and that way I can kind of work those in with all of my sweater and cardigan whips that I am trying so hard to finish so that I can wear them this fall. So I'm just going to work here on Ravelry to find those patterns, and I'll be grabbing a screen recording so that I can show you in detail what I am thinking about knitting.
I decided to take a look at my Ravelry library first because this is where the patterns that I've already purchased live, and I figured if I've already bought it then I probably should make it soon. I decided to start with the Aosta Cami because that is a stitch pattern texture that I've been obsessed with for a long time, and I've heard great things about patterns written by the Knit Pearl Girl. And I did take a look at the PDF for a very long time, but I didn't share any of the screen recording from that because it is a paid for pattern. But from the Ravelry page you can get a lot of important information, like the yarn called for and some of the sizing information, but I find that looking at other people's projects is much more helpful for actually seeing how a garment will fit on your body. The second pattern that I wanted to take a look at was the Malvarosa top by Raquel and Isabel Vidare. This is a pattern that I actually found last year and had cast on last summer, but I found myself growing a little bit frustrated with the actual detail that had drawn me to this pattern in the first place, being the lace and cabling that go up the sides. The problem was definitely with me and not the pattern, so I felt like my techniques have improved to make this garment this season. The third tank top that I took a look at was the Bubble Top by Nina Ruth. This is one that I just recently purchased and I liked it just from the way it looked tucked into jeans in that first photo, but I was very concerned about how this might fit because I don't like things that are too cropped, and I wanted something that I'd be comfortable wearing out and about. So I did take a long look at the different projects, longer than I'm actually showing you here, and just seeing if any differences in the yarn really were going to make the fit an issue, and whether I had the ability to make this top a little bit longer just so that I feel more comfortable when I'm wearing it. Because I'd already taken a look at quite a few tank tops, I decided to head over to my queue because I knew that I had several t-shirts that I hope I will make within the next couple of years, just like everything that's in my queue. And I found 2 in particular that I wanted to take a closer look at and consider purchasing. The first one was the Twist Tee, also by Nina Ruth, and this one I felt pretty optimistic about because I already have some t-shirts like it that I knew I'd probably be pretty comfortable wearing this one, and it would get a lot of use and be worth making. But I also wasn't sure if I wanted to go with something more detailed and technical, so I took a look at the Faye Summer Top by Irene Lynn. And this one's super cute with ruffled sleeves and a lot of cabling, but I felt like that was just going to be too time consuming for what I was looking for. Instead, I looked at the Leaffinity Top by Melanie Rayner, which also has a good level of detail and technicality to it, but is a little bit more accessible for the amount of time that I actually have realistically to dedicate to knitting right now. As you can see, I have a whole lot of projects in my Ravelry queue, and I hope that I can make all of these one day. Hopefully within the next 3 years or so. That would be my ideal goal, because then I would basically have an entirely me-made wardrobe. And if you want to take a closer look at any of these projects, you can head over to my Ravelry profile, Gabriella Creates, which is linked in the description. I had a sudden realization that one of the projects in my queue, the Provence top by Ekaterina Vorobera, was one that I had already purchased, and I actually had bought some yarn for. So I took some time to look at the different colors people had made it out of to decide if I wanted to continue with the yarn I had originally purchased for it, or if I wanted to take a look through my stash again and pick something else out. At this point, I felt like I had the 4 to 5 patterns that I wanted to make, so I just pulled them up in different tabs to be able to confirm that I liked the way that these all looked and that they were going to be different and add something meaningful to my wardrobe. The 5 patterns that I moved forward with picking out yarn for and calculating the sizing in this video are the Aosta Cami, the Malvarosa top, the Provence top, the Bubble top, and finally the Leafinity top.
So now that I have my 5 patterns picked out on Ravelry, I am going to use my notebook to plan out the sizing of the project and how much yarn I need, so that way I can head over to my yarn stash and figure out which yarn is going to work best with each pattern. So let's do that now.
For each pattern, I started out with the names of the pattern and the designer, and then took note of what kind of fiber the pattern originally called for, whether that was cotton or a cotton blend. After that, I did have to do some math once in a while to figure out which size was going to work best for me. I have a 38-inch bust, which is about 96 centimeters. So I just did that conversion from the beginning and then used that to look at each pattern and whether it tended to have negative or positive ease, and just pick the sizing that was as close as possible to my bust size, given that cotton does tend to stretch as you wear it. After that, I took a look at each pattern and how much yarn it called for based on the sizing, and did each conversion from meters to yards where necessary. If you want to see a tutorial on how to do all of those calculations for yourself, I would love to film that. Just let me know in the comment section down below if that would actually be helpful for you. Here's what my notebook looked like after I was done. I didn't do everything perfectly, but I had really good notes on exactly how much yardage I would need, whether the garment had positive or negative ease, and how I could expect it to fit me.
Alright, so now that I have the patterns picked out and the sizes ready to go, and I know exactly how many yards of each I need, let's head into my yarn stash.
It's organized pretty well with all of my worsted weight acrylics at the bottom, then a shelf with my comfy cotton blends, all of my wool blends, and then finally the bulk of my cotton and cotton blends, or any yarns that are much smaller gauge. And I would love to film a yarn stash tour if that would be interesting. Just let me know in the comment section down below. Here you can see me just taking a look at the Pima cotton in particular, because I knew I had some patterns that needed it, and basically ended up starting to just clear out my entire cotton shelf, so that way I could just spread out on my bed afterward and really take a look at the colors and the textures and decide which yarn was the best candidate for each top. I'm really trying to use up my entire yarn stash this year. I have made a few purchases, but I have so much yarn that I really should use it, so I tried to just use my stash yarn first. Knowing that I had 2 patterns that called for 100% Pima cotton, and I had 2 different colors of Pima cotton, I decided to use Blueprint for the bubble top and Dragonfly for the Leaffinity top because the Dragonfly is a little more green and I have more of it than the blueprint, and the Leaffinity top did call for more yardage than the bubble top. I had been thinking about making the Malvarosa top in this Bernay Softy Cotton in warm red for a long time, so that one was also a no-brainer. The Malvarosa top does call for a 60% cotton, 40% acrylic blend, and the Softy Cotton is a 60% cotton, 40% acrylic, so that's a good match. Then it took me quite a long time to think about what I wanted for the Aosta cami. I wasn't sure that the stitch pattern was going to come through with something like the Comfy Cotton, which has some variegation to it, and I noticed that the Oh Baby Cotton would be a great color for it, but the gauge is much too small. It does call for a DK, and that one is much closer to a sport or fingering weight. So then I decided to just go ahead and pick out a yarn for the Provence top, which needed almost 900 yards, and I didn't have that much of many of these yarns. So I settled on the Comfy Cotton and Whipped Cream, and then selected Trubu in the color blue for the Aosta. Here's the yarns that made the cut: Whipped Cream, Dragonfly, Blueprint, Blue, and Warm Red.
That's it. Thanks so much for planning my spring and summer knitting with me. I am so excited to get these projects swatched and cast on, and to be able to share them as whips in a new podcast episode soon. I do release a podcast episode every other Thursday, so when you're not watching a video like this one, it's going to be a podcast where I'll share my finished objects, whips, maybe dream projects, recent acquisitions, things like that. So if you want to stay tuned, go ahead and click that subscription button down below and hit the notification bell so that you get notified every time I release a new video. If you want to watch some behind the scenes, you can follow me on Instagram. I'm at LoveLetterKnits, and I'll have that linked in the description box below. And you can also add me on Ravelry. I'm Gabriella Creates, and I'll also have that link in the description box. Thanks so much for watching. See you next time.